The empty office. Natalie Harper glanced at the clock on her computer screen for the third time in 5 minutes. 6:47 p.m. The fluorescent lights of the Manhattan high-rise hummed softly above her desk as she watched her colleagues pack up their belongings one by one. The trading floor of Westbrook Enterprises, usually buzzing with energy and phone calls, had quieted to an almost eerie silence. She had just closed her laptop when she heard footsteps approaching. Looking up, she found James Westbrook standing beside her desk, his tie loosened and the top button of his shirt undone. It was a small detail, but Natalie had learned to read these signs over the 2 years she had worked here. A loosened tie meant long day. A removed jacket meant problem-solving mode. Both together usually meant something important was brewing. "Natalie, do you have a few minutes?" James asked, his voice carrying that familiar tone of casual authority that somehow never felt demanding. "I need your input on the Henderson account." Natalie felt her heart skip slightly. This was the 4th time in 3 weeks he had asked her to stay late. Each time she had told herself it was purely professional. James Westbrook was known for his hands-on approach to management, often working alongside his team members late into the evening. But something about these recent requests felt different. "Of course, Mr. Westbrook," she replied, reopening her laptop. "Should I pull up the Henderson files?" "Actually, why don't you come to my office?" "I have everything set up there," he smiled, and Natalie noticed the slight crinkles at the corners of his eyes. "And please, we have been working together for 2 years. You can call me James when it is just us." The corner office. 15 minutes later, Natalie sat in one of the leather chairs facing James's massive desk. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a breathtaking view of the city skyline, now twinkling with thousands of lights as evening settled over Manhattan. She had been in this office dozens of times before, but never quite this late. And never with the office so completely empty. James pulled up a chair beside her rather than sitting behind his desk. "So, the Henderson account?" he began, then paused. "Actually, Natalie, I should be honest with you." Natalie felt her pulse quicken. "Honest about what?" "The Henderson account is in perfect shape. You handled it brilliantly, as you always do." James ran a hand through his dark hair. "I asked you to stay because I wanted to talk to you." "Really talk to you?" Without the entire office listening, Natalie sat back in her chair, processing this admission. "I don't understand." "If the account is fine, then why have you been asking me to stay late?" James stood and walked to the windows, his hands in his pockets. For a moment, he just stared out at the city. When he finally spoke, his voice was quieter than Natalie had ever heard it. "Do you know what it is like to run a company like this at 35? To have everyone looking at you, expecting you to have all the answers, to never show weakness, to never be just a regular person." He turned to face her. "For 2 years, I have watched you work. You are brilliant, dedicated, and real. When you challenge my ideas in meetings, you do it because you genuinely believe there is a better way, not because you are trying to impress anyone." Natalie felt heat rising in her cheeks. "James, I am just doing my job. That is exactly my point." He moved closer, though still maintaining a respectful distance. "You see your work as just a job, but you pour your heart into it anyway. You stay late when projects need attention. You mentor the new analysts. You bring bagels for the team on Fridays because you notice people skip breakfast." The realization Natalie stood up, needing to move, to think. "What are you saying?" "I am saying that somewhere between your brilliant presentation on market trends and the way you laugh at Robert's terrible jokes to make him feel better, I have developed feelings for you." James said it simply, directly, without the corporate speak he usually employed. "And I know this is complicated. I know I am your boss. I know there are rules and policies and 100 reasons why this is a terrible idea." The words hung in the air between them. Natalie walked to the windows, looking out at the city, but not really seeing it. Her mind was racing. She thought about all those late nights. The way James always seemed to remember how she took her coffee, the way he had personally recommended her for the promotion last quarter. "How long?" she asked quietly. "How long have I felt this way?" James joined her at the window, maintaining that careful distance. "Honestly, about a year. But I have been fighting it. telling myself it was inappropriate, that I was reading too much into our professional relationship. Natalie turned to face him. And what changed? Life is short, Natalie. My father built this company from nothing, worked 80-hour days for 30 years, dropped dead of a heart attack at 62. He never traveled. He barely saw his family. He put everything into this business. James's voice cracked slightly. I don't want that to be my story. I don't want to wake up at 60 and realize I spent my entire life behind this desk, too afraid to take a chance on something real. The friend's warning the next morning. Natalie arrived at the office to find Diane Rodriguez, her closest friend at work, waiting by her desk with 2 cups of coffee and a knowing look. "Okay, spill it," Diane said, handing Natalie a cup. "You stayed late with the boss again last night, and you have that look." "What look?" Natalie asked, though she knew exactly what Diane meant. "That look that says something happened. That says your world just got a lot more complicated." Diane pulled her chair closer. "Nat, I have known you for 2 years. You are terrible at hiding your feelings. And I have seen the way he looks at you." Natalie sighed, glancing around to make sure no one else was within earshot. "He told me he has feelings for me." Diane's eyes widened. "James Westbrook." "Our James Westbrook? The guy who barely smiles in meetings?" "He smiles," Natalie defended automatically, then caught herself. "And yes, that James Westbrook." "What did you say?" "I didn't say anything. I told him I needed time to think." Natalie took a sip of her coffee. "Diane, this could ruin everything. My career, my reputation, my financial stability. What if it doesn't work out? What if people think I slept my way to my position?" Diane was quiet for a moment. "Those are all valid concerns. But can I ask you something? Do you have feelings for him too?" Natalie closed her eyes. She had been asking herself the same question all night. "Yes," she admitted quietly. "I think I do. Maybe I have for a while, but I convinced myself it was just respect for a good boss." "Then you have a decision to make," Diane said gently. "But Nat, whatever you decide, be careful. Office romances are tricky enough. Office romances with the CEO. That is playing with fire." The pattern emerges over the next week. Natalie couldn't help but notice the pattern. James had been creating opportunities to spend time with her for months, maybe longer. The project assignments that required her specific expertise. The business dinners, where he always seemed to seat her next to him. The thoughtful questions about her family, her goals, her life outside work. She also noticed other things. The way conversations would stop when she entered break rooms. The curious glances from colleagues. Robert Chen from accounting had even asked her point blank if something was going on with her and the boss. On Thursday evening, as Natalie was genuinely preparing to leave at a normal hour, her phone buzzed. A text from James. "I know I said I would give you space, but there is something I need to show you. Can you meet me on the rooftop terrace in 10 minutes? Natalie stared at the message. The rooftop terrace was technically part of the office building, but it was rarely used except for company parties. Meeting him there felt somehow more significant than meeting in his office. She typed back, "I will be there." The rooftop revelation. The evening air was cool as Natalie stepped onto the terrace. The city stretched out before her in every direction, a carpet of lights and life. James stood near the edge, looking out over it all. "Thank you for coming," he said as she approached. "I wasn't sure you would. You said you had something to show me." Natalie joined him at the railing. James pulled out his phone and handed it to her. On the screen was an email draft, addressed to the company's board of directors and human resources department. "I am writing to inform you of my intention to pursue a personal relationship with Natalie Harper. Currently employed as a senior financial analyst," Natalie read aloud. She looked up at James in shock. "You cannot send this." "Why not?" "Because it will make everything official. Because it will open me up to scrutiny and gossip and judgment. Or," James said gently, "it will show everyone that I am serious about this. That I am not playing games or taking advantage of my position. That I respect you enough to do this the right way." Natalie handed back the phone, her hand trembling slightly. "And what is the right way?" "The right way is being honest. The right way is acknowledging that yes, There is a power dynamic here, and yes, we need to be careful about that. But also acknowledging that we are both adults capable of making our own choices. James turned to face her fully. Natalie, I am not asking you to decide right now. I am not even asking you to say yes. I am just asking you to consider the possibility that maybe, just maybe, this could be something real. The city hummed below them, millions of people living their lives, making their own choices, taking their own chances. Natalie thought about her apartment in Brooklyn, her student loans, her carefully planned career trajectory. She thought about all the reasons this was a bad idea. Then she thought about the way James listened when she spoke, the way he had fought for her promotion, the way he had looked at her last night, vulnerable and honest and real. Don't send that email yet, she said finally, but ask me to dinner. Not a work dinner, not a meeting, an actual date. James smiled, and it transformed his entire face. Tomorrow night? Tomorrow night, Natalie agreed, felt her own smile matching his. As she walked back to the elevator, Natalie knew she was stepping into uncertain territory. But for the first time in a long time, uncertain felt like exactly where she needed to be. The first real date, Natalie changed outfits 4 times before finally settling on a simple, navy dress that felt appropriate for wherever James was taking her. She had texted Diane a photo of each option, and Diane had responded with increasingly enthusiastic emojis before finally typing, "Girl, just pick one. He already likes you in your work clothes. Anything else is a bonus." Now, standing outside a small Italian restaurant in Greenwich Village, Natalie felt her stomach flip with nervous energy. This wasn't some corporate steakhouse where Westbrook Enterprises held client dinners. This was intimate, cozy. With checkered tablecloths and candles flickering in wine bottles, James was already waiting outside, wearing jeans and a simple button-down shirt. Natalie had never seen him in jeans before. It made him look younger, more approachable, more like someone she might have met at a coffee shop rather than in a boardroom. "You found it," he said, smiling warmly. "I was worried the directions were confusing." "GPS is a wonderful invention," Natalie replied, then immediately felt silly for such an awkward response. But James just laughed. "Come on, I promise the food here is worth the trip. My college roommate owns the place. No corporate credit cards, no business talk, just good pasta and honest conversation." Inside, the restaurant was exactly as charming as it had looked from the outside. A man with salt and pepper hair and a warm smile greeted them immediately. "Jamie, you actually showed up on time for once." The man pulled James into a brief hug before turning to Natalie. "And you must be the woman who has had my friend texting me nervous questions about restaurant recommendations for the past week?" "I'm Tony Marchetti, Natalie Harper," she said, shaking his hand. "And he was nervous?" "Terrified," Tony said with a grin, ignoring James's pointed look. "I haven't seen him this worked up since our economics final junior year. Come, I have the best table in the house ready for you." Getting to know each other as they settled into their corner booth, Natalie felt some of her nervousness ease. This was different from their late-night office conversations. Here, without the weight of quarterly reports and client presentations, they could just be 2 people getting to know each other. "So, Tony seems nice," Natalie said, studying the menu. "How long have you known him?" "Since freshman year at Columbia. We were randomly assigned as roommates, and somehow we didn't kill each other." James smiled at the memory. "He kept me sane during the worst years of my life. When my dad was pressuring me to drop out and join the company immediately, Tony was the one who convinced me to finish my degree." "Your dad wanted you to drop out?" This was a side of James's story Natalie hadn't heard before. "My father believed in learning by doing. He thought college was a waste of time for someone who already had a family business waiting for them." James paused as their waiter brought water and bread. "We fought about it constantly. He saw my education as rebellion. I saw it as preparing myself to actually be good at running his company someday." Natalie broke off a piece of bread. "And were you right?" "Honestly, both of us were partly right. The business degree helped me understand financial structures and market theory. But the real education came from working on the ground floor after graduation. My dad made me start in the mailroom, then accounting, then sales. I spent 2 years learning every department before he let me anywhere near executive decisions. That must have been humbling. It was essential, James said firmly. How can you lead people if you have never done their jobs? How can you make decisions about their work if you don't understand what they actually do every day? He looked at her intently. That is why I notice things like you mentoring the new analysts, Natalie. Because I remember what it was like to be new, overwhelmed, and desperately hoping someone would take the time to explain things. Their food arrived, and for a while they ate in comfortable silence. Natalie had ordered the carbonara, and it was easily the best pasta she had ever tasted. She said as much, and James looked pleased. Tony's grandmother's recipe? She was from Rome, came to New York in the 50s with nothing but her recipes and her determination. Built a life here, raised for kids, and taught Tony everything she knew about cooking. James twirled his own pasta thoughtfully. There is something I admire about that. Building something real with your own hands, creating something that brings people together. Is that why you stayed with your father's company instead of starting your own? Natalie asked. James considered the question.
Partly,
but also because I realized that I could honor what he built while also transforming it into something better. When I took over 5 years ago, Westbrook Enterprises was successful but soulless. Employees were numbers on a spreadsheet. Profit was the only metric that mattered. I wanted to change that. And have you? I think so. We have better benefits now. Better work-life balance policies. We promote from within more often. We invest in training and development. He met her eyes. And we hire brilliant people like you, then actually listen to what they have to say. The complication, Natalie was helping herself to more bread when her phone buzzed. She glanced at it and felt her stomach drop. A text from Diane. Emergency. Call me when you can. Everything okay? James asked, noticing her expression. I don't know. My friend Diane says it is an emergency. Natalie hesitated. Do you mind if I step outside and call her quickly? Of course not. Take your time. Outside the restaurant, Natalie dialed Diane's number. Her friend picked up on the first ring. Nat, I am so sorry to bother you on your date, but you need to know something. Diane's voice was tight with concern. Bradley from HR pulled me aside today. Apparently, someone reported seeing you and James on the rooftop terrace last night. They are asking questions. Natalie felt her blood run cold. Who reported it? I don't know. Bradley wouldn't say. But Nat, they are talking about conflicts of interest. About reviewing your personnel file. About whether your promotions were legitimate. Diane paused. I think you need to be prepared for this to get messy. I haven't done anything wrong, Natalie said. But her voice sounded weak, even to her own ears. And you know that, but office politics don't care about the truth. They care about perception. Diane sighed. I just wanted you to be aware before you go back to work on Monday. And Nat, be careful. I care about you, and I don't want to see you get hurt. When Natalie returned to the table, James immediately noticed her changed demeanor. What happened? Someone saw us on the rooftop last night. They reported it to HR. Natalie sat down, her appetite suddenly gone. James, this is exactly what I was worried about. Now people are going to question everything. My promotion, my assignments, my entire career. James's jaw tightened. This is my fault. I should have been more careful. It is not about being careful. It is about the reality of our situation. Natalie fought to keep her voice steady. You have the power here. If this goes badly, you will still be the CEO, but me. I could lose everything. It won't happen. I won't let it happen. You can't promise that. Natalie looked at him sadly. You can't protect me from gossip or judgment or people deciding I slept my way to the top. James was quiet for a long moment. Then he pulled out his phone and started typing. What are you doing? Natalie asked. Sending that email to the board in HR. The one I showed you last night. He looked up at her. You were right that it will make everything official. But maybe that is exactly what we need. Complete transparency. No secrets, no sneaking around. If we are going to do this, we do it openly and honestly. James, wait. Natalie reached across the table. If you send that, there is no going back. I know. He held her gaze. but here's what I realized tonight. I don't want to go back. Yes, this is complicated. Yes, there will be challenges. But Natalie, in all my years of running that company, I have never felt as alive as I do when I am with you. You make me want to be better, do better, build something that actually matters. Natalie felt tears pricking at her eyes. You barely know me. Then, let me get to know you. Really know you. Not as your boss, not as the CEO, just as James. He smiled slightly. Besides, I've been watching you work for 2 years. I know you are stubborn, brilliant, kind, and you have a terrible habit of working through lunch. I know you take the subway every day, even though you could afford a car service with your salary, because you think it keeps you grounded. I know you visit your mom in Brooklyn every Sunday without fail. That is not barely knowing you? The decision Tony appeared at their table with 2 glasses of wine. On the house, he said quietly, you both look like you need it. After he left, Natalie took a sip and let the warmth settle her nerves. If we do this, we need rules. Agreed? At work, you are still Mr. Westbrook. Our professional relationship stays professional. No special treatment, no favoritism, no mixing business with personal. Absolutely. If anyone questions my qualifications or my work, you let me defend myself. You don't swoop in to rescue me. Shh. James nodded. Though that is going to be hard for me. I hate seeing talented people get undermined. And if this doesn't work out romantically, we find a way to stay professional. No awkwardness, no passive aggression, no making the office uncomfortable. That is fair, though I should warn you. James leaned forward. I am pretty confident this is going to work out. Oh, really? Natalie raised an eyebrow. And what makes you so sure? Because I have spent 2 years working with you, Natalie. I have seen how you handle pressure, how you treat people, how you stay true to yourself, even when it would be easier to cut corners. Those are not just professional qualities. Those are the kind of character traits that build real relationships. He paused. And because when you walked into this restaurant tonight, I felt happier than I have felt in years. Natalie felt her resistance crumbling. This is insane. We are risking everything. Or we are choosing to be brave. James reached across the table and took her hand. What do you say, Natalie Harper? Are you willing to take a chance on something that might be extraordinary? She looked at their joined hands, then up at his face. In his eyes, she saw hope, nervousness, and something that looked a lot like the feeling swirling in her own chest. Okay, she said softly. But you are explaining this to my mother when I bring you home to Brooklyn. James laughed, the sound bright and genuine. I look forward to it. As they finished their meal and talked late into the evening, Natalie felt a strange sense of peace settling over her. Yes, Monday would bring challenges. Yes, there would be gossip and questions and difficulties to navigate. But sitting here with James, watching him animated and real, and so different from the corporate version of himself, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. The morning after Saturday morning. Natalie woke to her phone buzzing with messages. Most were from Diane, asking how the date went and whether she was okay. But one message made her sit up straight in bed. It was from Bradley in HR. Natalie, I need to schedule a meeting with you first thing Monday morning. Please confirm your availability. She stared at the message, her heart pounding. This was really happening. Whatever anonymous person had reported seeing them, it had already triggered official scrutiny. Her phone rang. James, good morning, he said, his voice warm. I hope I didn't wake you. I was already awake. Just got a message from HR wanting to meet Monday morning. Me too, James said calmly. Bradley wants to see both of us, separately. I sent the email to the board last night after I got home. I copied Bradley as well. You actually sent it. Natalie wasn't sure whether to be relieved or terrified. I did. And Natalie, I want you to know something. Whatever happens in these meetings, whatever questions they ask, you tell the complete truth. Don't try to protect me or minimize anything. The only way we get through this is with complete honesty. Even if honesty costs us our jobs, I am not going to lose my job. The board might be unhappy, but I own 45% of the company, and my track record speaks for itself. But yes, even if honesty is difficult. Because the alternative is sneaking around and lying, and that is how we would actually ruin everything. After they hung up, Natalie made herself coffee and sat by her window, watching Brooklyn wake up around her. Families heading to the park. Couples walking their dogs. Normal people living normal lives without complicated workplace romances. But then she thought about last night. The easy conversation. The laughter. The way James had looked at her like she was the most interesting person in the world. Was she really willing to give that up because it was complicated? Her phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from her mother. Mia, you are coming for Sunday dinner tomorrow, yes? I am making your favorite. Natalie smiled and typed back, yes, Mommy, and I might be bringing someone. There was a long pause, then someone. Someone. Natalia Rosa Harper, you call me right now. The Monday morning reckoning, Natalie arrived at the office at 7:30 Monday morning, a full hour before her scheduled meeting with Bradley. She wanted time to prepare, to gather her thoughts, to review her personnel file, and make sure every piece of documentation was in order. The office was mostly empty at this hour. Just a few early birds scattered across the trading floor. Natalie made herself coffee in the break room and tried to ignore the way her hands shook slightly as she poured. You were here early. The voice made her jump. She turned to find Robert Chen, the accountant, who had asked her point-blank about James last week. Big day? Just wanted to get a head start on some projects, Natalie said, keeping her voice neutral. Robert studied her for a moment. Look, I know it is none of my business, but people are talking. And I just want you to know that some of us have your back, okay? You are good at your job. Really good. Whatever is or is not happening with Westbrook, that does not change the quality of your work. Natalie felt a lump forming in her throat. Thank you, Robert. That means a lot. Just be careful, he said quietly. HR meetings are never fun, even when you have done nothing wrong. At 8:25, Natalie walked toward the HR offices on the third floor. Her heart was hammering, but she kept her head high and her expression calm. She had done nothing wrong. She had worked hard for every achievement in her career. No one could take that from her. Bradley's assistant showed her into a conference room, where Bradley sat with another woman Natalie didn't recognize. Natalie. Thank you for coming, Bradley said formally. This is Jennifer Walsh from our legal department. She will be sitting in on this conversation. Natalie's stomach dropped. Legal department. This was more serious than she had thought. Am I in some kind of trouble? She asked directly. No one is in trouble, Jennifer said smoothly. We are just doing our due diligence regarding a potential conflict of interest situation. We understand that you and Mr. Westbrook may be pursuing a personal relationship. That is correct, Natalie said, grateful that her voice came out steady. James and I have developed feelings for each other. We went on our first date Friday night. We have been completely professional at work, and we intend to maintain appropriate boundaries between our personal and professional lives. Bradley made notes on his tablet. Can you walk us through the timeline of when these feelings developed? For the next 45 minutes, Natalie answered questions. When had she first noticed James showing interest? Had there been any inappropriate contact at work? Had her recent promotion been discussed in a personal context? Had she ever felt pressured or coerced? To every question suggesting impropriety, Natalie gave the same honest answer, no. Her promotion had been based on merit. James had never made her uncomfortable. There had been no physical contact at work. Everything had been above board until their first date, which had happened entirely outside of office hours. And you feel comfortable with the power dynamic? Jennifer asked. Mr. Westbrook is not just your supervisor. He is the CEO of the entire company. I am aware of the power dynamic, Natalie said carefully. That is exactly why we wanted to be transparent about this relationship from the beginning. If at any point I feel uncomfortable or pressured, I will report it immediately. But right now, I feel like I am being treated as an adult, capable of making my own decisions. James's turn while Natalie was being questioned. James sat in a different conference room facing 3 board members. Patricia Donovan, the board chair. Michael Ramsey, the longest-serving member, and Yuki Tanaka, who had joined the board 2 years ago. James, we received your email, Patricia began without preamble. And while we appreciate your transparency, we have serious concerns about the optics of a CEO dating an employee. I understand your concerns, James said calmly. But I want to be clear about something. Natalie Harper is an exceptional analyst who has earned every advancement she has received based purely on merit. I have the documentation to prove it. Her performance reviews, her project outcomes, her peer feedback. Everything supports the fact that she is exactly where she should be professionally. That may be true, Michael interjected, but perception matters. If other employees believe she resists preferential treatment, it damages morale and opens us up to liability. Then we make it clear that she won't receive preferential treatment, James said firmly. In fact, I propose that Natalie's future promotions and assignments be reviewed by an independent committee that I have no involvement with. Complete transparency. Yuki leaned forward. James, you have done excellent work leading this company. Your father would be proud. But mixing personal relationships with business is a recipe for disaster. What happens if this relationship ends badly? What happens if you break up and it creates a hostile work environment? Then we will handle it professionally, just as any two adults should, James replied. But I am not going to let fear of what might go wrong prevent me from pursuing something that could be right. He paused, choosing his next words carefully. My father spent his entire life building this company. He was brilliant at business. But he was also lonely, isolated. He died having sacrificed almost every personal relationship for the sake of professional success. I don't want that to be my story. Patricia studied him thoughtfully. You really care about her? I do, James said simply. And I believe we can navigate this appropriately while maintaining the integrity of this company. The office gossip by lunchtime, news of the HR meetings had spread through the office like wildfire. Natalie returned to her desk to find Diane waiting with a salad and a determined expression. Lunch. Now. Off-site, Diane commanded, grabbing Natalie's arm. They ended up at a small deli, 2 blocks away. Once they were settled in a corner booth, Diane fixed Natalie with an intense stare. Okay, tell me everything. And I mean everything. Natalie recounted the HR meeting, the questions, her answers. Diane listened intently, occasionally nodding or making supportive noises. You did good, Diane said finally. Honest, direct, professional. That is exactly the right approach. She paused. But Nat, you need to be prepared. People are already choosing sides. Sides? We are not at war. Maybe not, but office politics are. Some people think you are brave for pursuing this. Others think you are naive. And a few, Diane grimaced, think you are calculating that you targeted the CEO to advance your career? Natalie felt like she had been punched in the stomach. People actually think that? Vanessa from marketing has been particularly vocal. She told anyone who would listen that she always thought there was something suspicious about how quickly you got promoted. I got promoted because I am good at my job. I know that. Most people know that. But Vanessa's always been jealous of you. Diane reached across the table and squeezed Natalie's hand. The point is, this is going to be rough for a while. You need to be prepared for comments, for sideways looks, for people questioning everything you do. Natalie closed her eyes. Is it worth it? Is this relationship worth all of this drama? Only you can answer that, Diane said gently. But I will say this. I have known you for 2 years, Nat. I have never seen you as happy as you were when you texted me after your date Friday night. That counts for something. The board's decision at 3 o'clock, James and Natalie were both called back to separate conference rooms. This time, James faced the full board. While Natalie met again with Bradley and Jennifer, we have made a decision, Patricia announced to James. The board will allow this relationship to continue, but with strict conditions. First, as you proposed, all future reviews and promotions for Miss Harper must be handled by an independent committee with no input from you. Second, you both must attend mandatory training on workplace relationships and boundaries. Third, any hint of favoritism or inappropriate behavior will result in immediate disciplinary action, potentially including termination. James nodded. Those terms are acceptable. There is one more thing, Michael added. We want you to consider transferring Miss Harper to a different department. That would eliminate the direct reporting relationship and make things cleaner. No, James said firmly. Natalie is a financial analyst. That is her expertise, her passion. Transferring her to a different department would be punishing her for this relationship, and I won't agree to that. We will maintain professional boundaries, but she stays in her current role unless she chooses to move. In the other conference room, Natalie was receiving similar news from Bradley and Jennifer. The company will allow the relationship to proceed, Jennifer explained, but we will be monitoring closely. Any complaints about favoritism or inappropriate behavior will be investigated immediately. I understand, Natalie said. And I appreciate the company taking a measured approach instead of just firing one of us. Bradley smiled slightly. For what it is worth, your work speaks for itself, Natalie. We reviewed your entire file. Everything checks out. You earned your position. The public announcement the next morning, an email went out to the entire company from the HR department. It was brief and professional. Dear colleagues, this message is to inform you that CEO James Westbrook and Senior Financial Analyst Natalie Harper have disclosed a personal relationship to the company in accordance with our workplace relationship policy. The relationship has been reviewed and approved by the board of directors. All appropriate safeguards are being implemented to ensure fairness and prevent conflicts of interest. We expect all employees to treat both individuals with respect and professionalism. Any harassment or inappropriate comments will be addressed through our standard disciplinary procedures. Thank you for your cooperation. Natalie read the email 3 times, her heart pounding. There it was. Their relationship announced to everyone, no more secrets, no more hiding. Her phone buzzed. A text from James. How are you holding up? She typed back, terrified. You same, but also relieved. No more pretending. Throughout the day, Natalie experienced a range of reactions from her coworkers. Robert gave her a thumbs up and a supportive smile. Several of the younger analysts congratulated her, clearly thinking the whole thing was romantic. A few people avoided eye contact entirely, and Vanessa from marketing made a point of walking past Natalie's desk and saying loudly to her companion, Well, I guess we all know how some people get ahead around here. Diane was on her feet immediately. Vanessa, do you have something you want to say directly to Natalie? Vanessa smirked. I am just making an observation. Then let me make an observation, Diane shot back. Natalie has been here for 2 years and has consistently delivered excellent work. Her promotion was reviewed and approved by multiple people. Maybe instead of making snide comments, you should focus on your own performance. Vanessa huffed and walked away. Diane turned to Natalie and winked. See? Some of us have your back. Sunday dinner in Brooklyn. That Sunday, Natalie brought James home to meet her mother and her younger sister Carmen. Her mother's apartment in Brooklyn was small, but filled with warmth. The smell of Ariscon Palo filling the air. Mommy. This is James, Natalie said nervously as they entered. Rosa Harper was a petite woman in her 50s with sharp eyes that immediately assessed James from head to toe. So you are the one who has my daughter coming home with that dopey smile, she said, in accented English. Mommy. Natalie protested, mortified, but James just laughed and extended his hand. Mrs. Harper, it is an honor to meet you. Your daughter talks about you constantly, does she now? Rosa shook his hand, but didn't smile yet. Come, sit. Dinner is almost ready. Carmen said another place. Natalie's sister Carmen, a college student with her mother's sharp wit, grinned at James. So you are the CEO boyfriend. Nat said you were cute, but she undersold it. Carmen. Natalie wanted to sink through the floor. Dinner was a lively affair. Rosa asked James direct questions about his intentions, his family, his values. James answered honestly, not trying to charm or impress, just being himself. He talked about losing his father, about the pressure of running a company, about how Natalie had reminded him that there was more to life than quarterly reports. You know my daughter. She is smart, Rosa said, serving James a generous portion of rice. Too smart sometimes. She thinks with her head always, not enough with her heart. I am sitting right here, Mommy, Natalie protested. I know you are sitting there. I am talking to James. Rosa turned back to him. My husband. He died when Natalie was 18. She had to grow up fast. Help with Carmen, help with bills. She forgot how to be young, how to take chances. Mommy, where are you going with this? Natalie asked suspiciously. Rosa looked at her daughter with love and exasperation. I am saying that maybe this man is good for you. Maybe he reminds you that life is not just about being responsible and safe. Maybe he reminds you to be brave. Natalie felt tears pricking her eyes. Her mother smiled and patted her hand. But Rosa turned to James with a suddenly fierce expression. If you hurt her, if you make her cry, I don't care how much money you have. I will find you, and you will regret it. Understand? James met her gaze steadily. I understand, Mrs. Harper, and I promise you I will do everything in my power to make sure your daughter never regrets taking a chance on me. Rosa studied him for a long moment, then nodded. Okay, you can have more chicken, Carmen laughed. That means you passed the test. She only gives seconds to people she likes.